the silent prisoner. For many centuries, the city of Zandia was known for one strange thing, a tall statue standing in the middle of the city square. The statue was of a beautiful alien woman, her face frozen in sadness, her body strong but unmoving. People told stories about her. Some said she was a goddess. Others said she was a warrior punished by the gods. No one really knew the truth, but all agreed on one thing. Statue could never be broken, not by hammers, not by lasers, not even by the strongest storms. The people of Zandia grew up hearing stories about the statue. Children played around her feet. Old men and women left flowers and gifts hoping for luck. The statue stood silently, watching as the city changed and grew around her. No one knew she was listening. No one knew she was waiting. One night, under a sky full of dark clouds, a stranger came to Zandia. His name was Carter, and he was a human explorer from a distant planet. Carter did not care much for old legends. He was searching for something else. Ancient technology hidden somewhere in Xanthia. He believed the past had secrets, but he did not believe in magic or curses. Carter walked through the empty streets as the rain began to fall. He wore a long dark coat and carried a small old backpack. When he reached the city square, he stopped. The statue looked even more mysterious. In the rain, water dripped down her stone face, making her eyes seem to cry. Carter stood in front of the statue, looking up. "You're more beautiful than they said," he whispered, half mocking. "But I bet you're just stone. No magic, no curse." He stepped closer, touching the stone foot. It felt cold, smoother than any rock he had touched before. Suddenly the ground shook. A deep, low rumble echoed under the square. Carter jumped back, confused. The rain fell harder. Lightning flashed across the sky. Beneath the statue, a small trap door opened with a heavy sound. Carter stared, shocked. He had not expected this. Slowly he crouched down and looked inside. There, covered in dirt and dust, was an old sword. Its blade was rusted, the handle wrapped in faded leather. Strange symbols were carved along its edge, glowing faintly in the darkness. Carter reached out and picked up the sword. It was heavier than it looked, but it felt warm in his hand, as if it was alive. The glowing symbols grew brighter. Suddenly a cold wind rushed through the square. The statue's eyes flickered. A tiny blue light appeared deep inside them. Carter's heart pounded. He stepped back, but the ground shook again, this time even stronger. Cracks appeared on the stone base of the statue. A low, sad voice filled the air, but no one else could hear it. "Free me," the voice seemed to say. Carter shook his head, thinking he was imagining things, but the voice grew louder, clearer. He looked at the sword, then at the statue. Suddenly the ground gave way. Carter tried to run, but the earth crumbled under his feet. He fell into a deep, dark hole, landing hard on a stone floor. Dirt and dust filled the air. He coughed and looked around. He was in a secret underground chamber. The statue's massive form above him now cracked and glowing with blue light. The sword in Carter's hand glowed brighter, lighting up the chamber. Strange machines lined the walls, old and silent, covered in cobwebs. Carter stood up, shaking with fear and excitement. He walked closer to the statue's feet, now at his eye level. The cracks spread, blue light spilling out. Suddenly the statue's stone surface began to move. First a finger twitched, then the hand opened. The face changed, eyes moving slowly. Searching the darkness, Carter froze, not sure what to do. He wanted to run, but something inside told him to stay. He held the sword tight. The statue knew the woman was waking up. For the first time in centuries, her eyes looked directly at him. Who are you? A voice echoed in the chamber, weak but clear. Carter took a deep breath. My name is Carter. I found this sword. The woman tried to move, but her legs were still trapped in stone. The sword, she whispered, you broke the seal. Carter stepped back, confused and scared. I don't want any trouble. Blue light from the cracks filled the room. The woman's face showed pain, hope, and fear all at once. She reached out a trembling hand, stopping inches from Carter's chest. For centuries I waited, she said, now with a human's hand. My prison is broken. Carter stared at her, heart racing. He knew his life would never be the same again. And above, in the silent city square, the storm raged on, hiding the secret that was waking below. The awakening underground chamber was cold and full of shadows. Carter stood very still, the rusty sword shaking in his hand. In front of him, the statue woman, no longer just stone, was slowly coming to life. Light glowed from the cracks in her body, casting strange shapes on the old stone walls. Carter could hardly breathe. He felt fear but also wonder, as if he was standing at the edge of something very old and very powerful. The woman's voice was weak but clear, echoing in the small space. Who are you? Why do you carry the sword? Her words seemed heavy, full of memories and pain. Carter swallowed hard, searching for the right words. He was just an explorer, nobody. He never thought he would be part of a legend. My name is Carter, he answered, his voice trembling. I found this sword under the statue. I don't know what's happening. Woman's hand, still part stone, reached out. Her fingers brushed the glowing blade. For a moment, blue light shot up her arm, making her gasp. Pieces of stone fell away from her body, revealing smooth, pale skin underneath. She was tall, graceful, and even in her weak state, she looked strong and noble. I am Syria, she said, her eyes meeting Carter's. I was the last defender of Xanthia. I was betrayed and cursed. My body was turned to stone so no one could free me. For centuries I waited, but no one could break the seal until now. Carter took a shaky breath, feeling the strange weight of the sword in his hand. The glowing runes looked like nothing he had ever seen before. Why me? He asked quietly. Why did the sword work for me? Syria's face twisted in pain. Curse could only be broken by a human hand. That was the final cruelty of my enemies. She looked away, her eyes shining with old anger. But you are not like the others. You risked coming here alone. You lifted the sword even when you did not know its power. Suddenly, loud voices echoed above them. The city guards had noticed the storm and the earthquake. Footsteps pounded overhead. Syria tensed, her body still half trapped in stone. We must hurry, she whispered. If they find us here, they will try to put me back in my prison. Many fear what I might do if I am free. Carter looked around, searching for a way out. He saw a narrow tunnel on the far side of the chamber, hidden by broken machines. This way, he called. He helped Syria to her feet, the stone falling away bit by bit. She could not walk on her own, so Carter put her arm over his shoulders. Her touch was ice cold, but he did not pull away. As they moved through the dark tunnel, Syria told Carter more about the past. She had once led the people of Zambia against an invading human army. But her own council betrayed her, making a deal with the enemy to end the war. In the end, she was turned into stone as a warning, her spirit locked inside. Unable to move or speak, Carter listened, feeling sorry for her. He had always believed humans could be good. But hearing Syria's story made him realize that people could also be cruel. And afraid, he promised himself he would not let her suffer any longer. The tunnel twisted and turned, finally, opening into a forgotten storage room. Under the city, old boxes and broken weapons lay scattered on the floor. Carter set Syria down gently, trying to make her comfortable. The rusty sword still glowed in his hand, its power stronger than before. Syria studied Carter's face as if trying to understand him. "You do not seem like the humans I remember," she said softly. "Why did you help me?" Carter shrugged, feeling awkward. "Maybe I just wanted to see if the legend was true. Maybe I just hate seeing anyone trapped." He smiled. "Little, besides, I think you're the bravest person I've ever met." For the first time, Syria smiled, a small, sad smile, but real. "Thank you, Carter. I will not forget your kindness." Suddenly, there was a loud crash at the other end of the tunnel. The city guards had found the entrance. "We have to move," Carter said urgently. He helped Syria to her feet again, gripping the sword tightly. The blue light pulsed, showing the way forward. As they hurried through another dark passage, Syria's strength slowly returned. The curse was lifting, but she was still weak. Carter was afraid, but he pushed on, knowing that every step took them closer to freedom and deeper into the city's secrets. Above them, the storm was ending, but in the shadows below Zandia, a new storm was just beginning. Carter and Syria were running for their lives, but neither knew that their escape would soon change the city forever. The broken passed in the dark, dusty storage room. Carter and Syria caught their breath. The blue light from the sword faded a little, but its warmth remained in Carter's hand. Syria was awake, but her legs were still heavy, some stone, refusing to fall away. The old memories in her eyes made her look older than her young face. Carter could feel the pain behind her silence. Carter found a broken chair and helped Syria sit. For a moment they listened for footsteps, but it was quiet except for the distant echo of city guards searching above. Syria stared at her hands, now free from stone. "It's strange," she said softly. "For so long I could not move. I could only think. My memories are all I had. Now I am free, but those memories still trapped me." Carter sat beside her, holding the sword. "Will you tell me?" he asked gently. "I want to understand. Maybe it will help." Syria looked up, surprised by his kindness. She took a deep breath. "My people called me their shield. I was a general during the war of Blue Sands. Zandia was strong and proud, and we thought no enemy could beat us, but the humans came, and they were clever, not just with weapons but with words." Carter listened closely. This was history he had only read in old books. "What did they do?" he asked. "At first, the humans tried to make peace," Syria continued, her voice trembling. "But my council was proud and refused. They said humans were weak. I thought so too, until I saw them fight. They never gave up, even when outnumbered. But what destroyed us was not their armies. It was fear inside our own city." Carter nodded. "Your people betrayed you." Syria's eyes filled with tears, shining in the dim light. "Yes, some of my closest Friends made a deal with the human. Commander, they thought turning me to stone would end the war, bring safety. But it only brought shame. I heard their voices as the curse was cast. I felt every year pass, unable to move, unable to speak. Carter's heart ached for her. I'm sorry, Syria, that's horrible, but not all humans are like that. She looked at him, trying to believe. Maybe you're different, Carter. You risked everything to help a stranger, but in my time, humans and Xandans hated each other. Suddenly Carter had an idea. He took out his old battered data pad. Look, he said, showing her pictures of Zandia as it was now. Humans and Zandians living together, children playing, shops run by both species. Things have changed, Carter said softly. Maybe not perfect, but we try. Syria watched in wonder. For so long she had only remembered the old world. Now seeing these new images, her heart felt lighter. So much time has passed, she whispered. Is it possible my people forgave the past? Carter smiled. Maybe. And you can have a new life too. But as they talked, strange noises echoed down the tunnel. Syria tensed her muscles tight. They're coming. We can't stay here. Carter looked around and noticed a metal grate in the floor. He pried it open with the sword, revealing another old passage. He helped Syria stand, and together they climbed down into the darkness. As they moved, Carter shone a small light from his bag. The tunnel was full of ancient carvings. Syria reached out and touched the symbols, remembering when they were new. This is where the old council met, she whispered. So many secrets are hidden here. Carter studied the walls. Curious, he saw a mural showing a warrior holding a shining sword, the same sword now in his hand. Syria followed his gaze and explained, that sword belonged to my teacher. It was said to be unbreakable, but after the curse it disappeared. Carter was surprised. You mean this sword is part of your legend? Syria nodded. It's the sword of mercy. Only a heart full of mercy could use its power. My teacher always said mercy is the strongest weapon, but I never believed him until now. Carter felt the weight of the sword. In a new way, he realized maybe the sword had chosen him, not the other way around. As they walked deeper, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. We must hurry, Syria warned. These tunnels are old. If they collapse, we will be trapped again. Carter pushed forward, but his mind was racing. He thought about mercy, forgiveness, and trust. He wondered if he was brave enough to help Syria fully, even if it meant risking his life. At last they found a door at the end of the tunnel. Carter pushed it open, leading into another secret room. This one full of old armor, shields, and a broken painting of Syria herself. She stared at it, tears falling silently. You see, Carter said quietly, your story isn't finished. Maybe you're not just a memory. Maybe you can help change the future too. Syria wiped her eyes and gave a small, determined nod. Yes, Carter, I will not hide anymore. I want to see what this new world is like. I want to be more than a silent prisoner. Outside, the city searched for the escaped statue, not knowing that hope was returning step by step through the darkest tunnels of their past. The city's fear above ground. The city of Xanthia was in chaos. News of the moving statue spread quickly. Shops closed early. Parents called their children home, and security drones flew over the city square. In the mayor's office, a group of worried leaders argued about what to do. Some wanted to search the tunnels, some wanted to call the army. But everyone was afraid. The legend of Syria, the silent prisoner, was not just a story to them, it was a warning from the old days. Meanwhile, deep below, Carter and Syria hid in the old council room. The walls were covered with dust and faded symbols. Syria looked at the ancient weapons hanging on the walls. Her people's proud history now forgotten. She wondered if the world above would ever accept her again. Carter kept checking the tunnel door, listening for footsteps. He could hear distant voices. Search parties were getting closer. They're looking for us, he whispered. If they find us, they might not listen to reason. Syria nodded, her face sad but determined. They only know the stories about me, stories twisted by fear. She touched her chest where the last piece of stone was slowly disappearing. I am still weak. The curse is almost gone, but I cannot fight an army. Carter thought hard. He remembered the datapad pictures, the hope he saw in Syria's eyes. Maybe we don't need to fight, he said softly. Maybe we just need to show them the truth. As they talked, the room suddenly filled with a soft hum. An old computer on the wall blinked to life. Carter must have activated it when he leaned on the desk. A faded hologram appeared. Syria herself, younger and proud, speaking to her people. Xantha must not be ruled by fear. The hologram, Syria said, her voice echoing in the old room. We must choose mercy. We must trust even when we are afraid. Syria stared at the recording. She remembered that day. It was just before her betrayal. I believed those words once, she whispered. But my people turned against me anyway. Carter's eyes shone. That message is still true. Maybe your city needs to hear it again. Just then heavy boots echoed down the tunnel. Carter grabbed the sword. Standing in front of Syria, guards burst through the door, their guns raised. Captain shouted, step away from the statue. Hands in the air. Carter raised his hands, trying to calm them. Wait. She's not your enemy. She's alive. She wants peace. The guards hesitated, confused by the sight of Syria, half stone, half flesh, looking tired and scared. Not like a monster at all. Syria lifted her hand, weak but brave. Please. I do not wish to harm anyone, but the captain, remembering the old legends, shouted, it's a trick. The last time Syria walked free, the city nearly fell. One of the younger guards lowered his weapon, doubt in his eyes. But she looks so sad. She doesn't look dangerous. Captain glared, stay alert. Carter saw chance. He quickly pressed a button on the old computer, replaying the hologram. Syria's message filled the room. The guards watched, surprised by the voice from the past. The words about mercy and trust seemed to chain something in the air. Syria looked at the guards, her real voice shaking, but honest. I was betrayed, not because I was cruel, but because my people were afraid. I forgive them now. I want to live not as your prisoner, but as your friend. There was a long silence. The captain's hand shook. He was afraid of making the wrong choice. Suddenly, another voice came from the doorway. A woman in a red cloak, older and full of authority. She was the mayor of Zandia. Enough, she said, stepping into the light. Lower your weapons. Everyone listened. The mayor stared at Syria, remembering the old stories her grandmother used to tell. If you mean peace, prove it, she said. Give us a sign. Syria struggled to stand. Carter helped her, holding her steady. With her last bit of strength, Syria knelt before the mayor, a gesture of trust and Surrender, I am not your enemy, I only want a new life, please let me go. Mayor watched, moved by the humility and pain in Syria's eyes. She turned to the guards, take them to the old hospital. Not the prison, she needs help, not chains. The captain lowered his gun. Still wary, the younger guard nodded. Hope in his eyes. Carter let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. For the first time since freeing Syria, he felt a spark of hope. Maybe they would get a chance to tell their story. After all, as they left the old council room, the legends of Zandia began to change. Some people still whispered in fear, but others started to believe that the old curse could become a new beginning. Outside, the storm had ended. Sunlight touched the city's highest towers. In the distance, children played in the square, not yet knowing that their world was about to change forever. The humans risked. The old hospital was nothing like Carter expected. Its walls were cracked, the windows dusty, and strange alien plants grew up through the floor. Long ago, humans and Zandians worked side by side here, but now it was used only for emergencies. The mayor's guards watched Carter and Syria closely as they walked through the empty halls. Syria felt weak, every step harder than the last bit of stone still covered her legs, and the curse made her chest ache. Carter helped her to a quiet room and gently lowered her onto a cot. The sword which had helped set her free lay on the table between them, its rooms glowing dimly like a tired heartbeat. The mayor stood in the doorway. Syria, you will be safe here for now, but many in the city are still afraid. Somewhat. You gone forever? Syria nodded, trying to hide her pain. I understand. I was their warning for centuries. Now I am their fear again. Carter spoke up. She's not a danger. She needs help. The sword can heal her, but it also hurts me every time I use it. The mayor's eyes softened. She watched as Carter lifted the sword. Show me, she said quietly. Carter gripped the rusty blade. As soon as he touched it, blue light jumped from the sword too. Syria, she cried out, the stone cracking and falling away from her legs. But at the same time, Carter gasped and dropped to his knees, clutching his chest. It felt like ice and fire at the same time, burning through his body. The mayor stepped forward, alarmed, but Carter shook his head. I'm all right, he said through gritted teeth. Just need a moment. Syria reached out, guilt in her eyes. You shouldn't risk yourself for me. The sword is dangerous. If you keep using it, it will kill you. Carter managed a weak smile. You waited centuries for someone to help you. I can handle a few minutes of pain. The mayor looked at both of them. Why would a human do this for someone he barely knows? She asked. Carter shrugged. It's simple. Everyone deserves a second chance. I would want the same if it was me in her place. Outside, the hospital filled with the sounds of arguing voices. Word spread that the statue was alive and under the mayor's protection. Some people were angry, demanding Syria be locked away forever. Others were curious, drawn to the hospital gates, whispering about the human who risked his life for an ancient enemy. Back inside, Carter sat beside Syria as she slowly regained her strength. The sword needs energy, she explained. It takes from you to give to me. But with every use I am less cursed. Maybe soon I'll be free for good. Carter nodded, but inside he was worried. Each time he used the sword, the pain got worse. How much more could he take? Suddenly a window shattered. A rock flew into the room. followed by angry shouting. The guards rushed to block the door, but the crowd outside was growing louder. The mayor turned to Carter. We can't keep you safe here much longer. If the city panics, even I won't be able to protect you. Carter helped Syria to her feet. She was stronger now, able to walk. Slowly, the last of the stone cracking away. We have to go, Carter whispered. We need to find somewhere safe just until the city calms down. The mayor nodded. There's an old escape tunnel in the basement. It leads out beyond the city walls. Take it, I'll distract the crowd. As the guards led them down secret stairs, Syria looked back at the mayor. Thank you for believing in me. Even a little, the mayor smiled. Prove to them that hope is stronger than fear. In the dark tunnel, Carter's legs shook with exhaustion. Syria noticed her voice full of worry. You're not well. We should stop, but Carter shook his head. If we stop now, they'll find us. We're almost out. Suddenly, a door at the far end of the tunnel burst open. 3 masked figures appeared, members of the secret group who wanted Syria destroyed forever. They carried energy blades and wore old war medals, faces full of hate. You're not escaping, the leader sneered. The curse was placed for a reason. We'll end it tonight. Carter stood in front of Syria, sword ready, even though his hand shook. The sword's runes glowed brighter than ever, casting blue shadows on the walls. Syria placed her hand on his arm, sharing her strength. The fight was quick but fierce. Carter blocked the first attack, the sword humming with energy. Each strike burned his skin, but he didn't let go. Syria moved with surprising speed, her body almost fully free from the curse. Together they forced the attackers back. Finally, the masked leader lunged at Carter. Carter raised the sword, deflecting the blow. And in that moment, blue energy flashed, knocking the attacker to the ground. The others ran, terrified of the cursed blade. After the fight, Carter collapsed, breathing hard. Syria knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. Why do you risk your life for me? She whispered. Carter smiled weakly. Because everyone needs someone who believes in them, even if it hurts. Together they stepped into the cold night air, leaving the city behind. Their bond stronger than ever, but deep down, Carter knew he couldn't keep risking his life much longer. The next choice would be the hardest of all. The final choice. Cold air bit at Carter's skin as he and Syria stumbled out of the tunnel into the wild forest. Beyond the city walls, the sky was deep blue, streaked with morning light. Behind them, Zandia was waking up to rumors and fear. But Carter's thoughts were only for the woman beside him, an ancient warrior who now leaned heavily on his shoulder, fighting to stay upright. Syria's curse was almost gone. The last ring of stone clung to her ankle, shining with a weak blue light. She walked slowly, but her eyes burned with determination. We're safe for now, Carter whispered, helping her sit beneath a tree. Syria shook her head. We can't hide forever. The city will search for us, and they curse. She trailed off, looking at her leg. I'm almost free, but the sword takes too much from you. I see it every time you help me. Carter tried to smile, but his hands were trembling each time he used the sword's power. The pain was worse. His vision blurred at the edges, and his breath came in short, shallow bursts, but he hid his fear. I'll be fine, he said, forcing a grin. You're almost healed. One last time should do it. Syria knelt in front of him, her face filled with guilt and worry. No, Carter, you've done enough. If you use The sword again, it could kill you. I cannot ask you to give up your life for me. He shook his head, stubborn. You never asked. I chose this. I want you to be free, Syria, not just for me but for everyone. The city needs to see that the past can change. Suddenly the sound of footsteps echoed through the trees. Carter tensed, gripping the sword. 3 guards stepped out from behind the bushes. One was the young guard from before, the one who had doubted the old legends. He raised his hands to show he meant no harm. I'm not here to hurt you, the guard said quickly. The city is dividing. Some want you gone forever, but others believe you deserve a chance. The mayor sent me to help you. Syria looked at Carter, surprised. The guard continued, but there's a price. Secret group, the ones who cursed you. They're coming. If you want to be free, you must break the curse completely now. Otherwise they will find you and finish what they started. Carter stood unsteady, but determined. Then let's end this. Right here, right now. The guard nodded. The sword's power can be finished with a final act of sacrifice. Someone must give up their future for your freedom. That's how the curse was made. That's how it must break. Syria's face grew pale. No, I won't let you die for me, Carter. I have already lost too much. Carter took her hand, voice gentle but firm. My life is my own, Syria. I choose to give it for something that matters. I want you to live. I want you to have second chance. Tears filled Syria's eyes. But your life, your dreams, Carter smiled softly. My dreams to see you free. The guard stepped back, watching as Carter lifted the sword one last time. Its blue light burned brighter than ever, filling the forest with a soft glowing mist. Carter placed the blade on Syria's ankle where the last piece of stone held tight. Syria squeezed his hand, her voice breaking. Thank you, Carter. I will never forget you. The moment the sword touched the stone, a powerful surge of energy shot through both of them. Carter cried out, the pain almost too much to bear. Syria felt the last of the curse crack and shatter, the stone falling away in blue dust. The curse was broken. Carter dropped the sword and collapsed to the ground, barely breathing. His skin was cold, his eyes half closed. Syria knelt beside him, tears streaming down her cheeks. No, Carter, stay with me, she begged, pressing her hands to his chest, trying to give him her strength. The young guard rushed to help, but Syria's power was different now, brighter, stronger. The curse was gone, but something else was awakening inside her. She focused, remembering the ancient healing art her teacher once showed her. She placed both hands over Carter's heart, whispering words in her old language. A soft blue glow spread from her hands, warming Carter's chest. His breathing slowed, then steadied. Syria poured all her hope, all her love into the healing. At last Carter's eyes fluttered open. He looked at Syria, weak but alive. You're free, he whispered. Syria laughed and cried at the same time, holding his face in her hands. No, Carter, we're both free. In that quiet, magical morning under the trees outside Xanthia, a curse was finally broken, not just for Syria but for Carter too. Hope was reborn, and the future, for the first time in centuries, was theirs too. Choose the unbreakable heart. The first rays of the new day broke through the trees, painting the world with gold. Carter lay in the grass, tired but alive, while Syria watched over him, relief and joy mixing with tears in her bright blue eyes. The final piece of the curse had vanished from her body. She was herself again, flesh, blood, and hope. For a long moment the two sat quietly listening to birds and the gentle wind. The young guard who had watched everything smiled. I must return to the city, he said softly. People are waiting, they need to know what happened here. He bowed deeply to Syria. Thank you for showing us you are not a monster. Syria nodded gratitude, shining in her face. Thank you for believing even when it was hard. The guard hurried away, leaving Carter and Syria alone beneath the open sky. Carter tried to sit up, still weak, but Syria helped him gently. He looked at her with wonder. You saved me, he whispered. Syria shook her head. No, Carter, you saved me. You gave everything so I could live again. I will never forget your kindness, your bravery. Carter smiled, weak but happy. So what will you do? Now the curse is gone, you're free. Syria looked up at the sky, thinking, I have spent so long as a symbol of fear. Maybe now I can become a symbol of hope. But I cannot do it alone. She helped Carter to his feet. Together they walked back through the forest toward the city walls. The world seemed different, full of promise. Syria moved with new strength and grace, her steps light and free. Carter leaned on her, but with every step he grew stronger. As they neared the city, they heard voices, fearful at first but growing curious. The mayor waited for them at the gate, surrounded by worried citizens. When she saw Syria and Carter both alive, she raised her hands for silence. Syria stepped forward. I am not your prisoner anymore. I am Syria, the shield of Xanthia. I forgive those who cursed me, and I ask only to live among you in peace. There was silence. Some people still looked afraid, remembering the old legends, but others looked at Carter, the human who had risked his life for her, and their eyes softened. The mayor nodded. You have shown more courage and mercy than any legend ever told. Xandia needs hope more than fear. Today let us begin again. The crowd slowly parted, making way for Syria and Carter to enter the city. Shelvin peeked out from behind their parents, witty-eyed but smiling. An old man stepped forward, placing a small blue flower in Syria's hand. Welcome home, he whispered. Word spread quickly. People gathered in the square, listening as Syria spoke. She told him her true story, not of war and anger, but of forgiveness and second chances. Carter stood beside her, the rusty sword shining on his back, a new symbol for the city. That night Xanthia celebrated. Lights danced in the windows, music filled the streets, and for the first time in centuries, laughter echoed through the city square. Carter and Syria sat on a rooftop, looking at the stars. Will you stay here? Carter asked. Syria smiled, her eyes bright. The universe is wide. There are many worlds and many stories, but for now, I want to help Xanthia heal. And I want you by my side. Carter's heart beat faster. I'd like that, he said softly, but I don't know if I'm a hero. Syria touched his hand. You are to me. You showed me that even the smallest kindness can break the strongest curse. That is what makes a heart unbreakable. As the night grew quiet, Syria and Carter talked about the future. They dreamed of new adventures, exploring distant stars, helping others find hope, and telling their story so that no one would ever feel alone again. In the days that followed, Xandia changed. Syria became a leader, but not a ruler. She listened to her people and helped both humans and Zambians understand each other. Carter worked beside her, teaching children, repairing old machines, and reminding everyone that history could be rewritten with courage and kindness. The rusty sword was placed in the city's museum, A reminder that even broken things could hold great power. People came from far away to see it and to hear the story of the unbreakable heart. And so the legend of Syria and Carter lived on, not as a warning but as a promise that forgiveness is stronger than fear, that mercy can heal old wounds, and that true courage lives in every heart willing to hope. Together they looked up at the stars, ready for whatever the future might bring. The past no longer chained them. They were free at last and forever.